my microphone on, you could hear me a whole lot better. There you go. Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome to First Contact Radio. All right, Mercury retrograde, right? Things happen like that from time to time. Anyway, let's jump into our cosmic weather today, see what's going on. Okay, spaceweather.com is our first stop along the journey. Solar wind is at 422.2 kilometers per second. 422.2 kilometers per second. The planetary K index at the moment is 1. In the next 24 hours, it could get up as high as a 2. Big difference compared to the 6 that was yesterday. Coronal holes, okay, nothing really of any significance other than just the strange looking face of the sun. Our M-class flare possibility has gone down from 60% chance yesterday. Now it's only 40% chance. And the X-class flare has dropped as well. It's back down to 5% chance. Geomagnetic storm activity could be active 20% if you're in the mid latitudes. If you're in the high latitudes, you can see here you got like 35% chance it could be severe today, but then lessening. And of course, all of these because of the CME that hit the solar flare over the course of the last couple days. And here it tells us a little bit. On the 13th and 14th, northern lights spilled across the Canadian border into the United States during a moderately strong K6. That was yesterday when we were doing the show. It had subsided a bit, so that's where we were. So that's why we're feeling what we're feeling, or a good possibility. And here you go, a couple more good pictures here from the from up by in Australia or somewhere. Where is this? Doesn't really say where. But this is the eclipse, and you can see a couple people eating the sun. Eating the sun, not really, but just for fun. Okay, astrologically, where are we at today? We are right here, which means same sun sign. So we're dealing with the same element, which is water. So we got water, which is emotions, feelings, things coming up from the depths that need to be healed, that need to be addressed and looked at. Sometimes they're fears, so we send love to them. Sometimes there's doubt, so we send it faith. Whatever it is, it's something that's just been out of the light and just needs to have a little bit of attention to be brought forward without any of those negative attachments to it. Then underneath the unconscious, right here, we've got fire, because we're at Sagittarius. And just like the arrow, Sagittarius shoots the arrow of truth. Sagittarius is a fire sign, so it's ideas, creativity. That's what ideas are all represented. Fire and tarot cards would be the suit of wands. So what we're dealing with here is the element of truth. And with Sagittarius, a planet that's involved is Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet of expansion. So whenever Sagittarian energy is there, everything gets expanded because the energy just opens up. It's like all of a sudden you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean and suddenly everything becomes much bigger and you realize the ocean just became much bigger. There you are. So everything expands around you. I don't know if that's a good example, but you kind of get the idea. So everything expands, and with this expansiveness, we want to make sure that we don't get lost in it, or we try too much to figure out so much of it, because we can't. That's what the idea of the ideas are. We want to seek for the truth. As things are expanding outward, we want to narrow our focus like an arrow, to narrow it in to focus on what is the truth of all that is this expansion that is going on. And of course, all this expansion with these creativity and these ideas are all underneath in the unconscious mind, trying to find a way out through the conscious mind, which at this moment is dealing with emotions, feelings, water, how things are moving. So just think of these two elements, fire and water. So you got the conscious mind, water. It's like a pot of water on the stove. And underneath the unconscious, you got the fire, and you got it turned on. So question is, how much heat is this fire going to put out? Or is the fire going to put out towards the water? Is it going to be enough just to make it nice so you can have a nice hot drink? Or is it going to be too much that's going to dissipate the water? It's up to you to decide how you're going to use those energies. That's what the idea of free will is about, how we use the energies available to us. Okay, so that's where we are today. Moving next, we could see that we're now 5% of the way full. It's the waxing moon. Waxing again is going from new moon to full moon. On the Mayan Oracle, we're at a two-tone day. Two-tone. It's called the lunar tone of challenge. The kin for today right here is the monkey. So everything's reflected here on our wave spell in the second path of the monkey here. Our guide for today is the knight. And then the surrounding supporting cast members, you've got the dragon, which is the challenge for today, birth, nurturance. The like-minded energy is the star, shining bright. And the hidden power is our ability to love and our loyalty. That's what's hidden. So if we allow that to come out from where it's hidden, other people will see it. So altogether, our phrase for today is I polarize in order to play, stabilizing illusion. I seal the process of magic with the lunar tone of challenge. I am guided by the power of abundance. One more note here, just keep in mind, the theme of this wave spell is love. Love and loyalty. Now, not only is it the theme of the wave spell, but in the position that we're at, we could see that there's the support of this love and loyalty in the hidden position here. So, love and loyalty still, it's the theme, and it still is playing itself out as we move along. It's very important that we look at these issues, because imagine, if we had tons and tons of love in the world, imagine what that would do to counteract all the negativity and all the fear and the doubts. It would be pretty amazing. So I think that's very important for us to check on and be aware from time to time. And on the Gregorian calendar, today is the 15th of November. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday to you. And moving right along, we have 36 days now until December 21st, 36 days of the closing of this cycle. So have you noticed changes? I've noticed changes. I'm sure that you have. We see changes in the weather. We see changes in people's attitudes. We see changes in what's going on with the government. The governments seem to be becoming more fearful through these changes, so they're imposing more restrictions. People are becoming more aware of changes going on, but they're kind of caught in a position where they don't really know what to do because the government is imposing all these restrictions, and there's all these distractions which are taking people away from really paying attention to what's important. I mean, when's the last time that you can think of that you flipped through any of the mainstream news channels and they've talked at all about 2012? Probably December 21st. Probably not too much. I mean, I don't hear much. I flip through all the channels just to see what's going on. So it's important that we look at this. For some reason, whoever is controlling the news doesn't think it's important to talk about an event that all of our ancestors talked about for thousands of years. Okay, the Hopis, the Mayans, the Aztecs, we've talked about all of those who have spoken about this. So we need to honor our ancestors by honoring this time, which is a time of change. And there's going to be those who are out there who say nothing's going to happen and they're going to go on with their lives, and they're going to, if there aren't any major earthquakes or floods or anything major that comes up on the 21st, there's going to be those who are going to be skeptics, see nothing happened. But for those who are paying attention, you know that something's happened on a subtle level. You can feel the energetic changes going on. That's what this time is about. You know, not everybody is going to be locked in to these energy shifts. And we can tell this just by going through the prophetic texts, reading through the book of Revelations. We could find out that, you know, there's going to be all different ways people think. So if we just relate back to Jesus and Buddha and the masters, they said during these times, they let us know we needed to get our thoughts focused. And that's where we're at. We need to focus our thoughts because the dimensions are converging and merging and splitting, and all kind of things are taking place. And there's a lot of thoughts and energies out there. So if we don't focus our thoughts, and the ability to manifest becomes quicker and easier, we don't want to manifest the negative thoughts. We want to manifest the positive. That's why we practice and practice. That's what we do. All right. So continuing on with the 2012 theme of December 21st, this is Dolores Canon. I played the first part yesterday. I played about 10 minutes. I'm going to do the same thing today of part 2 because very fascinating and more good information right here. So enjoy. I'll be back.
The ancient Mayan civilization, which flourished in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico and parts of Central America between 3000 BCE and 1524 CE, is recognized by the world for its achievements in art, architecture, agriculture, and advanced mathematics and astronomy. Among their many accomplishments, the ancient Mayans invented a calendar of remarkable accuracy and complexity. Based on precise observations of the celestial skies and astute understanding of our solar system's cycles, the ancient Mayans prophesied that 2012 will be a very important year for our planet. According to the Mayan calendar, December 21st, 2012 is the end of a great solar cycle of 5,125 years and the beginning of another. This new beginning is thought to bring about significant shifts in cosmic energy and heightened levels of consciousness in all beings on Earth. Based on her research, what does Miss Cannon believe will happen in 2012?
An entire planet will shift. Wow. There have been other civilizations that have already made that shift. In my past life work, that's where I've taken people back to every time period you could possibly imagine. And some of them went back to those times, and they were there when the civilization itself developed to the point it didn't have to be here anymore, and the vibrations and frequencies changed to the point that they shipped to this other dimension. Wow. And of course, you know, the ones I'm speaking to, they're back in this life now, and I said, why did you come back? And they said, we came to help in this new thing where the entire planet is going to shift. So civilizations have done it, but this is the first time an entire planet is changing in frequency and vibration to go into another dimension. It's already happening. The ones who are into the negativity and who don't believe in any of this, they will stay with the old Earth. See, it's a dividing. The old Earth and the new Earth are splitting off. They will stay with what they have created. But it's okay. They'll eventually get there. It all has to do with free will, so you can't change anybody's belief system. The Earth is a living being, and it is going into its next incarnation. It's evolving. Just took it a little longer because it's a larger body. And that's what's going through right now, the changing of the vibrations and the frequencies.
What specific changes will humanity undergo to match the development of our planet?
Our vibration and frequency has to change to match it as it evolves. And this has been happening, I believe it started about 2003, and it's been happening gradually since. This is such a strong energy shift. If it were to happen all at once to your body, you couldn't handle it, your body would be destroyed. So it has to happen gradually. And that's what it's been doing, gradually, little by little. And time is definitely speeding up. Scientists have proved this. Now we're living actually 16-hour days instead of 24. They said the clocks aren't going to show it. But time is speeding up to where everything is accelerated. It's a gradual process that happens little by little, and you won't notice it except there will be some physical effects. And a lot of people go running to the doctors, and the doctors can't find anything wrong with them. These physical effects will happen like for a few days, and then they'll taper off, and maybe you won't feel it again for another week or maybe another month as the body adjusts to this changing and raising of the vibrations. All the ETs, all the other beings out there are watching Earth to see, are we going to be able to do this? I've got lots and lots of questions about what's going to happen. They always tell me, we can't answer your questions because we don't know. It's never happened before. We're all learning in the process. But it is a division, and the old Earth is there for those, if that's what they want. They're staying with what they have created. We're going to move on, but they said eventually they'll catch up. All the disasters, the wars, and everything will be with the old Earth. And you begin to notice a division as you begin to pull away from it. That's what I mean about the old world and the new world. Wow. You learn to tell the difference. How many people are noticing their diets changing? This is another big factor in it. They said the best food is live foods, which they consider to be fresh fruits and vegetables. Because if we want to go, we have to make our body lighter in order to shift, to raise the vibration. In my books, Keepers of the Garden and the Custodians, I've done over 25 years work with ETs and UFOs, and I've not found any negativity whatsoever. It's beautiful, positive beings. What I've discovered in those, they're the ones that created the human beings on Earth. It goes all the way back to the beginning of the world. And I've had clients who went back there at those times when the world was being created, when the Earth was volcanic eruptions and lava and all the ammonia in the air. They went back to those times to where their job was to help clean the air out and to stabilize the Earth, because you had to do that before you could have any life here. Then after all that was calmed down, they had to create the water. These are just ordinary people that relived these lifetimes. So you can see, if you'd had a life where you helped create a planet, if you helped create water, give life to a planet, you don't think you can create your life now?
Wow.
You are a co-creator with God. You always have been. You have great powers. You're just on another lesson this time.
Many Holy Scriptures tell us that God has granted humankind the grand privilege of being co-creators of the earth with Him. As God's blessed children, we are endowed with godlike qualities and possess the ability to carry forth His work. Therefore, we are stewards in His Garden of Eden, caretakers of His house, and the custodians of His land. With these powers in our hands, we have the ability to heal our planet.
So they were there when the water was created. First you had to have plants before you could have life. So they're the ones that created the life. They brought single-celled organisms to the planet. Now, people say, where is God in all of this? He's very much there, because God is the one who told them where to go. And many of them, this is their job, to go all over the universe, finding planets that have developed to the point they can have life. Earth got to that point that it could cool down enough that we could have life. They have histories of all the planets in the councils. There's councils over everything. And so when a planet reaches that point, it is given its life charter. Then it's decided by these other beings, and this is what they do, and they live enormously long lifetimes because there is no time anyway. And so they're told to go to the planet and start, and they bring single-celled organisms to the planet just to see if they can get something started. And it depends on the primeval soup of the planet, the chemicals in the air, the soil, what is going to develop. They never know. The single-celled organisms begin to clump together to make multi-celled organisms and develop life of some kind. You would be surprised what you could have looked like. It all depends on the development. Where do these cells come from? They collect them from everywhere, and they just see what is going to grow and combine together. And it will begin to develop into plants, into animals, life of some sort. You can imagine how long this would have taken. So I've had people go back to lifetimes when they were the seeders, trying to spread life to get it going. But if you can get something going, then they come back over eons of time and groom it to get it to go. Like plants have to be there before you have animals. A lot of the animals were brought from other planets just to see what would grow here and what would evolve here. So they said, give this beautiful planet a being with intelligence and free will, and see what he does with it. This is one of the most difficult, challenging planets to live on. So to come here, you have to be a master manifester, even be allowed to step foot on this planet. Because it's so hard, the lessons are so hard. And then when you come, of course, all the memories erased. You forget the rules. You forget why you're here. As the animals began to develop, they picked the monkey to manipulate the genes in order to create people because it had a big brain capacity and it also had hands. You've got to have hands if you're going to create tools. You know, we are about 98% compatible genetically with the ape. So we are so closely related. So they picked that one and they began to manipulate it to create a being that would turn into an intelligent being.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I have 6 stories for us. Let's get over to them. All right, first story. This is Alaska. We don't hear too many things going on in Alaska. This was, get the video going here. This was a haunted house. I was loading them up and all, and I saw a bright orange orbital shape coming through the trees and going straight up. My first reaction was to scream and point. I knew it wasn't a plane because the planes don't go straight up. All right, let me back here. Let's see. I don't know what's going on here. Let me just do a reload. Take a good look at this here. All right. So, there we go. We just got the 2 lights up in the sky. We've seen these type of things before. All right. So, this is above Alaska. All right. Moving from Alaska on over to Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. It's kind of pretty fascinating lights. Let's see what we have here. All right, this is a 4-minute video, and there we got our lights just between the 2 buildings there. There you go. All right, now that's pretty fascinating. Question is, are these all part of one craft, one large craft, and these are all the lights, or are these all separate ones? Sometimes you gotta look at them a little bit to kind of figure out, huh? All right, that's over St. Petersburg, Russia. There's this month. On the 10th, above Florida, we have this one here. This is, we talked about this one the other day. This is just another report on that. Okay, 4 orange-red balls in color, approximately 1,500 feet in air, in flight pattern of planes landing and taking off from OIA. Flew over my house, no sound emitted, traveling 10 feet every second. So we saw approximately 10 of these balls. Started with 2, then 4, then 2, then back to 1. Flew over plane like. This was taken in the front yard. Okay, you can barely see these. They're very faint, but when you enlarge the screen, the picture, you'll be able to see them better. Here we go. 1, there's 1 there, there's another one, there's like 3, 4 of them in the picture here. Okay. Alright, that's that one there. And we're going to go up to the sun. Now the sun is still having images. We talked about the one the other day during the eclipse. We've seen things in the past. Here's an object that was seen above the sun. You could see it's a big object. I mean, just imagine how large that is in comparison to the sun, because when we talk about some of these solar flares that occur, not the solar flares, but the coronal holes, some of those coronal holes are larger than the Earth. You know, so this isn't quite as large as one of those coronal holes, but it's, you know, pretty good size. You know, could this be an Earth-sized object here? I don't know. Just a thought. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Okay, here are a couple young girls who had a sighting, and their mother did not believe, so had them draw pictures. And interestingly enough, They both do the same thing. It said a UFO was spotted by two young friends who drew the same spinning disc with flashing lights when questioned by an incredible mum. The strange object was seen by 10-year-olds Hermione Chamberlain and Courtney Holt last Thursday as they made their way back from a park along Skegness Road in Stevenage around 5 p.m. Hermione said, "We weren't scared. We were a bit shocked. We thought it was a UFO. It was moving a little bit, and it was high in the sky. We watched it for about a minute, then went inside." So it's pretty interesting that they both do the same type of object. And very good. Story's up, so you can check it out. And the very last one here, Stephen Bassett's been on the show a number of times. I'm going to get him on the show so we can talk about this as well. But there's been the effort that he has been championing out there in Washington, D.C. for UFO disclosure. And it's been a real challenge at times. There's been a couple of petitions that have been put up. The first petition garnered a response from the White House that there aren't any UFOs that they're aware of now or in our past history. So it was a bit disappointing that they aren't willing to come clean. People can look up in the sky and can see with their own two eyes there's something going on. And it's another example where the government really doesn't care to inform the people about anything. But I don't think that the people need to be relying upon the government. That's where I think there's a problem. Relying on the government to tell you something exists. Forget that. Forget that nonsense, okay? If you think it exists, if you believe it exists, if you see it, no, don't wait for the government. You think Obama is going to tell you the truth? Obama can't tell you the truth about anything. You think any of the people in Washington are going to tell you the truth? If you do, you might be waiting a long time. This says, if Congress won't do its job, the people will. Stephen Bassett, executive director of the Paradigm Research Group, has recently announced that his organization has raised $1 million towards producing and documenting 30 hours of testimony over 5 days from 40 disclosure witnesses before former members of the United States Congress. The effort, aptly named the Citizen Hearings on Disclosure, will have witness testimony covering the extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. The event is scheduled to take place in Washington, D.C., April 29th through May 3rd, 2013, at the National Press Club. All hearing members, witnesses, and special guests will be using the Washington Plaza Hotel. A documentary based around the citizen hearing will be produced by the PRG and Just Cause Entertainment and marketed for full theatrical distribution. All right? And, of course, this all comes from Stephen Bassett, leading advocate for UFO disclosure. All right, to end the, there it is, Stephen Bassett, leading advocate for ending the 65-year government-imposed truth embargo regarding an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. All right, so there you go. That's our UFO news for today. As you can see, there's lots going on. We just need to not worry about the government to tell us. We just got to know. There's a change taking place. If they're not telling you about the changes that are going on that we're aware of, imagine the things that they're not telling you that you aren't aware of. Okay, so basic things like this, especially if people are going to gain their power back through this experience, do you think there are those in the government that want you to have that power? Absolutely not. So they're not going to inform you about anything that's going to enlighten you. They want to keep you in the dark. So we need to enlighten ourselves. The way we do it, just keep talking to each other, keep informing each other, sharing these stories with each other. We're all in this together, and there's a lot more good beings on this planet than there are those causing problems. So if we just all focus our energy on accomplishing the task of disclosing information between ourselves, pretty soon the governments will become irrelevant. Wouldn't that be something if the governments became irrelevant? It certainly would. All right, I'm going to jump away for a moment. I'll be right back. I've got a lot more stories. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
All right, I am back. Okay. What do you think of that phrase? people shouldn't be afraid of the government. Government should be afraid of its people. Do you think that's a phrase that is out there to cause some sort of tyranny, or do you think that is a phrase that makes sense? It's from the movie V. You know, we've gotten to a strange point in our society where we have become afraid of a system that was supposed to help us. So when people stand up and aren't afraid and exercise our rights as citizens, not only of the particular country we're in, but as citizens of the earth, a lot changes. And part of the process that we're going through is having that ability and that inner conviction to stand up, to draw your line in the sand against those who are creating the tyranny and the problems out there. It's really not too difficult to see that from country to country, the problem makers are in the very legislatures and the governmental bodies of those countries. It's pretty easy to see. All you got to do is pay attention to the stories. So where are we going to go from here? That's a good question. Lots of good changes in the air. Now, Dr. Paul, I'm going to start off with him, as I usually do. Ron Paul has decided that he is done with his time in Congress. So here is a farewell speech. Now, this is a 48-minute long speech. I certainly am not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play a part of this so you can get a gist of what he is saying. And then we're going to, the link will be available so you can check it out on your own. Here we go.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, this may be the last time I speak on the House floor. At the end of the year, I'll leave Congress after 23 years in office over a 36-year period. My goals in 1976 were the same as they are today: promote peace and prosperity by a strict adherence to the principles of individual liberty. It was my opinion that the course of the U.S. embarked on in the latter part of the 20th century would bring us a major financial crisis and engulf us in a foreign policy that would overextend us and undermine our national security. To achieve these goals, I sought, the government would have had to shrink in size and scope, reduce spending, change the monetary system, and reject the unsustainable costs of policing the world and expanding the American empire. The problems seem to be overwhelming and impossible to solve, yet from my viewpoint, just following the constraints placed on the federal government by the Constitution would have been a good place to start. Just how much did I accomplish? In many ways, according to conventional wisdom, my off and on career in Congress from 1976 to 2012 accomplished very little. No name legislation, no name federal buildings or highways, thank goodness. In spite of my efforts, the government has grown exponentially, taxes remain excessive, and the prolific increase of incomprehensible regulations continues. Wars are constant and pursued without congressional declaration. Deficits rise to the sky. Poverty is rampant, and dependency on the federal government is now worse than any time in our history. All this with minimal concerns for the deficits and unfunded liabilities that common sense tells us cannot go on much longer. A grand but never mentioned bipartisan agreement allows for the well-kept secret that keeps the spending going. One side doesn't give up 1 penny on military spending, the other side doesn't give up 1 penny on welfare spending, while both sides support the bailouts and the subsidies for the banking and the corporate elite. And the spending continues as the economy weakens and the downward spiral continues. As the government continues fiddling around, our liberties and our wealth burn in the flames of a foreign policy that makes us less safe. The major stumbling block to real change in Washington is the total resistance to admitting that the country is broke. This has made compromising just to agree to increase spending inevitable, since neither side has any intention on cutting spending. The country and the Congress will remain divisive since there's no loot left to divvy up. Without this recognition, the spenders in Washington will continue to march toward a fiscal cliff much bigger than the one anticipated this coming January. I've thought a lot about why those of us who believe in liberty as a solution have done so poorly in convincing others of its benefits. If liberty is what we claim it is, the principle that protects all personal, social, and economic decisions necessary for maximum prosperity and the best chance for peace, it should be an easy sell. Yet history has shown that the masses have been quite receptive to the promises of authoritarians, which are rarely, if ever, fulfilled. Should we have authoritarianism or liberty? If authoritarianism leads to poverty and war and less freedom for all individuals and is controlled by rich special interests, the people should be begging for liberty. There certainly was a strong enough sentiment for more freedom at the time of our founding that motivated those who were willing to fight in the revolution against the powerful British government. During my time in Congress, the appetite for liberty has been quite weak. The understanding of its significance negligible. Yet the good news is that compared to 1976, when I first came to Congress, the desire for more freedom and less government in 2012 is much greater and growing, especially in grassroots America. Tens of thousands of teenagers and college-age students are, with great enthusiasm, welcoming the message of liberty. I have a few thoughts as to why the people of a country like ours, once the freest and most prosperous, allowed the conditions to deteriorate to the degree that they have. Freedom, private property, and enforceable voluntary contracts generate wealth. In our early history, we were very much aware of this. But in the early part of the 20th century, our politicians promoted the notion that the tax and monetary system had to change. If we were to involve ourselves in excessive domestic and military spending, that is why Congress gave us the Federal Reserve and the income tax.
All right, I'm going to leave it right there for the moment. The link is available so you can check it out. I got more stuff to get to. Next up here, this is top Georgia GOP lawmakers host briefing on secret Obama mind control plot. Secret Obama mind control plot. Okay. All right. It says President Barack Obama is using Cold War era mind control technique known as Delphi to coerce Americans into accepting his plan for a United Nations run communist dictatorship in which suburbanities will be forcibly relocated to cities. Oh, suburbanites, excuse me, will be forcibly located to cities. That, according to a 4-hour briefing delivered to Republican state senators at the Georgia state capitol last month. On October 11th, at a closed-door meeting of the Republican caucus, convened by the body's majority leader Chip Rogers, a Tea Party activist, told Republican lawmakers that Obama was mounting the most diabolical conspiracy. The event, captured on tape by a member of the Athens, Georgia-based watchdog Better Georgia, who was removed from the room after 52 minutes, had been billed as the information session on Agenda 21, a non-binding UN agreement that commits member nations to promote sustainable development. In the eyes of conservative activists, Agenda 21 is a nefarious plot that includes forcibly relocating non-urban dwellers and prescribing mandatory contraception as a means of curbing population growth. The invitation to the Georgia State Senate event noted the presentation would explain how pleasant-sounding names are fostering a socialist plan to change the way we live, eat, learn, communicate, and save the earth. And then there's a video here, 52-minute video. Watch that video. Watched it. It's well worth your time to do so. So, that's where we're going. Are you ready to be a communist state here, Americans? Are you ready? I'm not. Not in the least. And I don't like where this Obama character is taking us. He's a clown. And he's taking us in directions that we shouldn't be going. But let's just look at this for a minute, because here we are, it's 2012, getting close to December 21st, 36 days away, and we're told that this is the time when the people are going to stand up. So if the people are going to stand up, isn't it necessary sometimes for a very strong opponent to be out there so the people have someone to step up against? We certainly have our government, but now we have the puppet in place, Obama, who is doing what he can to diminish the United States of America. We could see, I mean, come on. If you're out there and you don't see this, then you're not paying attention. And I don't care what skin color you have. If you don't see this, what's going on, you're not paying attention. And if you're not paying attention, and I'm sure you know plenty of people like that, you're going to deserve exactly what you get, because something is going to smack you upside the head with a dose of reality one day, and you're going to realize that you were on the wrong side. Hopefully it won't be too late, though, because this guy is not doing America the job that a president should be doing. We look at the ideals of the presidents on television and in the movies, and we have these presidents that have integrity. But when it comes to reality, we don't have any integrity in the White House. When's the last time there's been integrity? Certainly not this president. Certainly not George Bush. Certainly not the president before him or the president before him. So we have to stop following these leaders who have no integrity, because guess where that leads us? Right, down a path of non-integrity. So we got to stop that. We got to get better, and that's what this next period of time is, just to focus on how we can stand up. Okay, this piece here, 22 signs that the voter fraud is widely out of control and the election was a sham. Now, this may be news to some of you not. But, it says, after what we've seen this November, how is any American supposed to trust the integrity of the elections ever again? I was just talking about integrity. There were over 70,000 reports of voting problems on election day. 70,000. That's quite a bit. And there are numerous eyewitnesses that claim they saw voting machines change votes from one candidate to another candidate right in front of their eyes. That was, people were complaining because they were voting for Romney and they would see Obama's vote would come up. In several of the swing states, there were counties where the number of registered voters exceeded the total voting age population by a very wide margin. There are some places where Obama got 108% of the votes. How he got 108%? Not quite certain, because 100% is the top-off point. He went over and above. Okay, how in the world does that happen? Well, some of the vote totals were reported in some of the most important swing states were completely and totally absurd. And yet we are just supposed to accept them on blind faith without ever being able to ask any questions. Of course, the Romney campaign has already totally given up. So it isn't as if there's any chance that the results of the president election could be turned anyhow. But if massive election of fraud did take place and nobody is held accountable, what kind of message does that send to our future? So here's 22 points. 22 points, signs of voter fraud. Okay? First one, 70,000 problems. Quite a bit. 59 voting divisions in the city of Philadelphia where Mitt Romney did not receive a single vote. Really? Is that a possibility? I don't think so. The overall voter turnout rate in Philadelphia was about 60%, but in the areas of Philadelphia where Republican poll watchers were illegally removed, the voter turnout rate was over 90%, and Obama received 99% of the vote. They've already ruled out an investigation. Number 4, a poll watcher in Pennsylvania claims that he saw that things change. And down here, Romney won 55 out of 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania and still managed to lose the entire state by a wide margin. Barack received more than 98% of the vote in 10 out of 50 wards. We go on and on and on and on. 22 points. I'm not going to go over each one of them because it's the same old nonsense we've been dealing with. But what are we going to do? We're going to keep listening to the government? You know, I often wonder. This is a world full of good people. And I often wonder why good people continually choose to turn on news that lies to them, that doesn't give them information. I told so many of my friends, turn off Fox News. They're not being honest. And when I do that, I get so much flack because people don't want to believe that Fox News would lie to them. Oh no, they say, Fox News is the most honest. Fox News is fair and balanced, they tell me. Yes, of course they tell you, because it is proven through the very comments people make that the techniques they use of propaganda work, because people go out and they spit out the information. So Fox News goes on the air and they tell you they're not part of the mainstream. Really? They're not part of the mainstream media? Well, when did that happen? They've been part of the mainstream media for years and years and years, yet they're trying to convince people, and people actually walk away believing what they tell them. How and why? I don't know. I don't know. So do yourself a favor. Turn off Fox, turn off CNN, turn off MSNBC, turn them all off. If you want to watch them for the sake of seeing what the lie that's being told to the public is, look at it from that perspective and you'll really gain something valuable from it. But if you really think that they're giving you news that's right on, think again. Do you think that the CIA, a secretive organization, goes out there and when they have an assignment, or SEAL Team 6, do you think they make sure they notify Fox News so they let everybody know, here's what's going on with SEAL Team 6? Do they really think people are that stupid? Yes, they do. And you know what? They're absolutely right, because there are plenty of people in this country who listen to what they tell them and they take it as gospel truth. I don't know why, because you can prove these things just by doing some research. But again, these news agencies, they don't want you to do the research. They want you to remain dumbed down. Well, I don't think people should be dumbed down. Do you? All right, this is Ben Swann. This is one of his reports. Here we go.
Over the next few weeks, you're going to be hearing a lot of things about why the Republicans fared so poorly in 2012. Why did Mitt Romney lose his bid for the White House? Why is it the Republicans didn't take back the Senate? Why is it they actually lost seats in the House? You're going to hear a lot of reasons for this, a lot of pundits making claims. In fact, Politico just had a headline on one of their stories. Was Mitt Romney too old, too white, too male? Maybe that was the problem. Had he been a different color or a different gender, would he have actually fared better? They're reasonable questions, but over the next few weeks we're going to take a look at it. Not opinions about why I might think that was the case, but some factual numbers to compare as to why Romney did so poorly. One of the things that we're going to take a look at today, the issue of states' rights, where the Republican Party has been, where they are, and where they go from here. Well, it's no surprise to anyone that the Republican Party has billed itself as the party of states' rights. Limited federal government, a smaller centralized government, and instead putting more power into the rights of the states, into the people in those states to govern themselves. It's certainly a more constitutional view of the federal government versus state governments. The issue for the Republican Party, though, has not been one of states' rights so much as consistency on the states' rights issue. I'm going to give you an example today of 6 different states that took a look at states' rights issues and where the Republican Party landed on those issues. Let's start with health care. On Election Day, Alabama passed something called Amendment 6. Amendment 6 stated simply that the federal government did not have the right to force the people of Alabama to purchase health insurance. No big surprise to you. Tea Party folks would be all about that. Same thing happened in Montana. There it was called Referendum 122. The people of Wyoming, by the way, they did the same thing in 2012 with something called Amendment A. All of them stating that the decisions about health care should be left up to the people of their individual states, not to a centralized federal government. Now, let's face it, it's no surprise to anyone that the Republican Party is going to stand with those 3 states on that health care issue. Alabama, Wyoming, and Montana, the Republican Party would say, have every right to govern their decisions over health care. It's not up to the federal government of what those states decide. And that's not the problem. The problem, again, for the Republican Party is consistency, because while health care issues were passing in those 3 states, 4 other states were trying to pass their own statewide issues. Voters in Maryland, Maine, and in Washington approved same-sex marriage on election night. Now, it was not pushed through the legislature, and that's important here. Rather, this was the very first time that states have actually, by popular vote, extended marriage rights to same-sex couples. But the Republican Party, they're not standing on the side of states' rights in this case. They're standing in opposition to it, saying that marriage should be between only a man and a woman. Is this a marriage issue, or is this a states' rights issue? I'll give you another one. 2 different states on election night voting to approve marijuana use for recreational purposes. Washington State and Colorado became the very first 2 states to do that. Again, the Republican Party not standing with them as a party. This issue is pretty interesting, though, because it specifically was brought up during the general election campaign. I'll tell you how. Paul Ryan was in Colorado as Mitt Romney's running mate, and he was asked where he stood on the issue of marijuana legalization. Ryan said it's a states' rights issue. Less than 24 hours later, the Romney campaign came back and said, no, that's not our position. Our position is that marijuana use should be considered illegal regardless. It's not a states' rights issue, it's a federal issue. Interestingly, Romney did not take that position when it came down to Arizona's immigration law. That, he said, was a states' rights issue. Healthcare is a states' rights issue. Same-sex marriage is not a states' rights issue. Marijuana use is not a states' rights issue. You see where we're going here? The problem Republicans are suffering from right now is that if you truly believe that you are the party of individual freedom and liberty, well, then you have to trust people with it. The biggest danger when it comes to individual freedom is that when you give it to people, you might not like what they do with it.
All right, good report from Ben. Good report. Now, apparently they didn't like him putting up all of his reality reports up online, so he's doing his own thing. Good for him. Good stuff. Okay, getting through a couple more things here. There's more than meets the eye with this whole Betrayus, and the mistresses, and yada, 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 all this nonsense. It's just a distraction of what's going on behind the scenes. Paula Broadwell's father. This is something entirely else, and the truth will come out. Her father, Paul Krantz, gave the New York Daily News a strange cryptic quote this afternoon outside his home in Bismarck, North Dakota. This is about something entirely else, and the truth will come out, he told the Daily News. There's a lot more going on to come out. You wait and see. There's a lot more than meets the eye. He said that of his daughter, who's at the center of the controversy that prompted CIA Director David Petraeus to resign from his post. He's a victim of character assassination. That's something much bigger lurking behind the curtain. Krantz says he supports his daughter 100% and he can't elaborate any further. All right, he apparently knows something. What does he know? And we'll just keep an eye on that, but I'm sure you're going to hear tons of it. If you flip through the mainstream news, that's all that they want to talk about over and over and over again. All right, here's something that needs to be looked at. This is a flyover of a sinkhole in Louisiana. Now, this sinkhole has been growing larger. This is the one we've done the reports that talked about the methane gas that's going on, and you can see from this flyover, this sinkhole is pretty good size. All right. So, what's going on out there? I don't know, but very important that we pay attention and just think good thoughts for the people out in Louisiana area. All right, Georgia Guidestones. Good article here all about them. Long article. Lots of really good information about what they are, why they're here. Basically, just a quick summary. One of the highest hilltops in Elbert County, Georgia, stands a huge granite monument engraved in 8 different languages on 4 giant stones that support the common capstone are 10 guides or commandments. The monument is alternately referred to as the Georgia Guidestones or the American Stonehenge, though relatively unknown to most people, is an important link to the occult hierarchy that dominates the world in which we live. All right, and actually the origin of this is in question, what this is about, what this means. A lot of questions about it. Read the article. We've talked about this in the past. Just wanted to make that available to you. And in regards to 2012, I've played some of these in the past. This here is a series. You can see this is part 69. It's dealing with October. There's a whole series of videos. I believe he's done one like every week or more than that over the course of the year about things taking place. And each of these videos are about 15 minutes in length. And it's just amazing as we go through. Let me just zip through, just see some of the crazy changes and things that are being recorded here. Okay, so this is a great video to watch through, and then go back and look at all of his videos. It's 2011 messages, the YouTube user, and really a great job of documenting. And you go through and you could just see a nice compilation of what's going on. And they're not always good things. Alright? So there you have it. Check that video out. And lots of crazy things going on with the weather in the world these days. Alright, that brings us to our meditation time. So go ahead and close your eyes. Relax. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Now, first of all, activate all of our chakras. Make sure they're going. Red at the bottom of the spine. Feel the energy being drawn up from the earth. The energy raises higher to the second chakra, orange, right around the belly button. And from there, the energy raises up higher, above it, just below the rib cage, to the yellow color chakra. And it raises up higher to the heart. The color becomes green. From the heart chakra, the energy goes up to the throat. Blue is the color of the throat chakra, and then the energy goes higher to the third eye. Imagine the color of violet, and finally at the crown chakra, indigo, as the light continues on, turning bright white into the cosmos and continuing onward. And you're connected to all that is, all that was, and ever shall be. Feel the energy flowing through. Now, 36 days away from the closing of a cycle. Intuitively, we all understand this experience. Some more than others. Some need to catch up with the thoughts between their conscious and unconscious mind. But as we take time to really consider, and we really go inside, we know that this is a positive change affecting all of us. So imagine right now that you see a runway in front of you. A runway in front of you. And imagine traveling down that runway, going faster and faster. Faster and faster. And as you do, the lines on the runway become a blur as you go faster and faster into the future. And imagine this runway zips all the way to December 21st, 2012. Imagine yourself there in that future moment, in that place, shining light bright. Shining light in preparation for all those who will be arriving. And as we shine the light bright in 2012, December 21st, as we shine the light bright, we allow the opportunity of positivity, growth, change, and transformation to exist. From that moment of December 21st, standing there, filling it with light, we understand the moment and the opportunity before us as we close out one cycle and move on to the next. Let's imagine now, from that place, sending out into the world the vibe of understanding about December 21st all around the planet. Let's send the thought out to each and every individual that we are part of this process of change, and when we connect with what is going on, we participate in the evolution that is taking place. Bring your energy and attention back from December 21st back to where you are today. Think about where you are. And think about the path ahead these next 36 days. If you are someone who understands what is going on, then connect with the awareness inside of you of how you are helping with the adjustment and the change going on. For if you are aware, it is only because you are intended to help others be aware as well. Let's imagine sending love into the world, because during these times there's a lot of fear being projected. A lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. But as we have been told over and over, as we project love, as we change our consciousness, we change what is happening around us. And the process of change and transformation we are going through is the opportunity we've been waiting for. Is the opportunity that has now arrived. So let's at this moment embrace the change that is taking place in the world. Let's hold that change inside of ourselves. Breathe it. Feel it. Honor it. And then let it go to be whatever it will be. Now, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Alright, there you have it. We've made it through another show. Prayer, meditation, the whole kit and caboodle. So go out and have a great day today. Just keep contemplating what's going on, these changes that we're going through. Because there is a change. And perhaps by paying more attention, you might be more aware of the change and might be able to be more involved in the process that is taking place. We got 36 days, right? We got nothing to lose by investigating what's happening. Nothing else. We owe it to our ancestors to make it to the end of this cycle, because they've talked about it, they've told us about it. Now let's take and finish out this session and start the next one on good footing. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.